the mindset comes first. And we do that a lot, especially when you're hiring, fresh graduates or people with little to no experience in the specific domain. You're looking for that first. Then comes the skill set. The skill set in today's world has gotten much more complex than when we, first started. You needed to first it was a bit technical. You needed to know the platform. Now you need to understand tech. You need to understand data. You need to understand audiences and people, essentially, and a bit about creative as well.
Small businesses are just launching any product, running ads for any product on social media, and they're able to generate a sale from that. When you do that here in the region, particularly social commerce, you don't feel it's as successful as the US.
Getting a layer of AI for the sake of getting it sometimes cripples you because the tools that you're dealing with are already quite advanced in that aspect. So sometimes you can go against them by, you can be fighting an algorithm with another algorithm, and that's not always productive.
Welcome to the first episode of Below the Fold. And because this is the first episode, I wanted to start hard and strong, and I wanted to make this about performance marketing. Hopefully we'll be able to unpack some insights and trends for 2024, perhaps some references and some case studies. And to help me unpack all of this, luckily, I have here as a guest on the podcast on this first episode, someone who's been spearheading performance marketing in the region for well over 10 years or even 12 years. Welcome, my friend, the performance guru, Elie Milan, Chief Performance Officer at Publicis Media. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a bit too much. Thank you.
Let's start with, I guess, defining what is performance marketing for the beginners out there. Are you able to define it? Is it something that's ever evolving? Is it shifting? What's your definition, very quickly?
We always have that conversation. I guess the simplest form of definition for me is, if you can measure it, it's performance. Doesn't matter the channel, doesn't matter the objective, doesn't matter the stage. If it's something that you can measure, it means that you can optimize, and it means that that's performance for you. I recently got a message from one of our colleagues saying that you guys are coining the term because you can do performance on TV and you can do performance, and he's absolutely right. That's the premise of it, simply.
When you say measure, are you referring to specific KPIs or actions? In my head, the definition is when you're able to measure the impact on perhaps ROI or bottom lines, or is it not just ROI, revenue? Is it any action, any type of KPIs, any type of measurement?
Yeah, it's very much that, right? So it's impact. You've mentioned the correct word, in my opinion. Impact is super important. Right now, the shape that takes depends on what you want to do. What was your objective behind that effort? And that's it, really. You're talking about all of the metrics that we look at, all of the measurement that we do are essentially building blocks to get you to a certain business objective. So whatever that business objective is, you want to get those building blocks up, and you want to see the impact of the efforts that you're doing against them.
Right.
Simply.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, there's a perception out there that performance is lower funnel and it's driving conversions, it's generating leads, it's generating revenue. But it's not just that, right? It's also the upper funnel. It's also how can you generate awareness at a cost-efficient and relevant way. So is there any specific tool that a performance marketer needs to know how to use in order to say that, yeah, we're doing performance marketing out here?
I guess before we get into the tools and the technology, it's very much a mindset, and then followed by a skill set, right? So the mindset is you wanna optimize. You wanna everything that you do, everything that you're buying in terms of media, needs to be needs to get better and better over time, and it's just a never-ending loop of that. So the mindset comes first, And we do that a lot, especially when you're hiring, fresh graduates or people with little to no experience in the specific domain. You're looking for that first. Then comes the skill set. The skill sets in today's world has gotten much more complex than when we, first started. You needed to first it was a bit technical. You needed to know the platform. Now you need to understand tech. You need to understand data. You need to understand audiences and people, essentially, and a bit about creative as well. Not to claim that we're, close to experts in the creative ecosystem, but it's really about managing the interplay of all of these elements and just making it work and keep trying and failing and learning and succeeding. And it's just a question of, building up that technical skill set as you go. But to me, what matters the most is that whether or not you have it in you as a mindset.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned mindset. I feel like someone perhaps who would perform well in this space is someone who optimizes everything, maybe, or do other parts of his day, perhaps maybe his health, his fitness. Maybe it's someone who is a high performer also outside of his marketing job or role. Do you agree with that, or is that what you're trying to say when you say mindset? Or
I wouldn't I'm not too much of an expert on life, but generally at work, when we're at it, it's really those who are attentive to details and who are, if you want, have a winner's mindset. They want to win. Campaigns are a little bit more about winning, about doing better every time, and just keep pushing it a little bit forward every single time you're running a campaign, or every single time you optimize. You get to an objective and you want to move on to the next one. You don't get an objective and you want to immediately react to that and see what you can do to fix and how can you get better next time. So it's a bit of, that drive to win is what gets you properly into a performance ecosystem.
I want to talk a little bit about this whole buzz around AI and the impact it has on performance marketing, if any. Because we both know that machine learning and algorithms have been here for a long time, right? On biddable platforms.
Yeah.
Has anything changed, especially with this recent buzz around AI? Did it have any impact, or has there been any shift in the space when it comes to performance marketing?
I guess to look at that in a bit more, or to kind of dive deeper into this type of machine learning or AI, whatever you want to call it. If you're talking within the channel itself, within the bid algorithms, that's been there for a long time and just keeps on evolving and evolving. And you look at that, you look at every channel that we deal with, at least in the digital space, and you see them improving and evolving. And, they're launching cross-channel or cross-asset, if you want. If you're one of the big techs, if you want to, optimize towards a specific objective. What's your objective? And just let the system run it for you. The system will learn from the first few engagements, conversions, you name it, and then it will start just improving itself within that channel. The downside of that is that you don't always have visibility of what's going on. So if something goes wrong, it's hard for you to investigate and detect what was it. At face value, you have to dig a little bit deeper. So within each channel, this is a continuous evolvement cycle of machine learning and AI. Outside of that, whenever you come into the middle layer or something that you're adding on top of whatever is available to everyone else, and this is where it gets a little bit more patchy with AI. Everyone wants to mention it because they feel the need to mention it. If you're pitching a client, if you're pitching your own team sometimes or your own management, you want to say that we're getting on board with artificial intelligence or with machine learning or with large language models and whatnot. But then it goes back to a very simple premise: is that is there a problem that you're solving? If there's a problem that you're solving, then yes, by all means. If there's a way for you to do it quickly and in an automated way and in a smart way, go ahead and do it. But getting a layer of AI for the sake of getting it sometimes cripples you because the tools that you're dealing with are already quite advanced in that aspect. So sometimes you can go against them by, you can be fighting an algorithm with another algorithm, and that's not always productive. So my advice then would be learn how to maximize, how to exhaust the platforms that you're dealing with to begin. And then if you identify a gap, if you identify a challenge, if you identify a problem, then leverage technology to solve for it.
I wanted to ask you also if you can maybe shed some light about what are some of the challenges we're facing here in the MENA region, or perhaps are we stalling in certain areas as compared to Europe or the US or other markets abroad? Any specific areas that you feel we need to look at, we need to address more thoroughly?
In the digital ecosystem, I would talk about the retail media ecosystem first. I think that's something that's been growing for a while now and still needs a little bit more maturity. I'm talking about marketing and media. I'm not talking about operations. I think a lot of the players in the market have nailed operations, and we live in a space where we're quite lucky when it comes to, at least in this part of the region, right, in the GCC, that we're quite lucky with infrastructure, with the facilities that you can get. So operationally, I think a lot of them are getting there quickly, and they're innovating and they're moving, to global levels quite easily. In the marketing space, what's being offered in terms of data, in terms of capabilities, in terms of placements and activation capabilities, that's something that I think we can work on a little bit more and develop it a little bit more. The demand is there, so let's just mature the supply a little bit and get the ball rolling on retail media the way we should. So that's bucket number one. When it comes to the platforms, big tech has always prioritized big markets. It's just how business goes. So sometimes we have to wait a little bit for a piece of technology or a feature on one of the tech platforms to come in, so we can leverage it. But that's not a regional thing. That's if you want a scale thing in terms of audiences and a profitability play for the big tech, and it makes sense. So that sometimes you just need to wait a little bit, and sometimes you can get creative and go around it. And this is what the region's been always good at. You see a lot of marketeers and a lot of digital, advertisers and a lot of brands as well, creating and innovating in the space beyond what the tech allows them. And that's something that, we should be proud of.
Yeah. Certainly lots of creative people here and lots of talent in the region. When you say marketing or retail media marketing suppliers, who do you mean? Can you be a bit more specific?
So the retailers themselves, right? So it's
so you're talking about the Amazons, the Noons, the pure players, and perhaps
Q-commerce players, your delivery services, your retailers as well. Talk about general
direct to consumer,
fashion,
brand
beauty, exactly.
Yeah.
All of the, not just direct to consumer, but the broader retailers that can who have the opportunity, if you want, to offer brands chances to grow, chances to advertise within them, right? Yeah. And they're stuck in the market. So they're stuck in the market that's come in recently. It's just about leveraging that tech the right way and bringing a proper proposition. Because if you're an advertiser, if you're a brand, sometimes, especially in the retail media space, you're trying to hit two objectives at once. You want to tick your media and your advertising objectives, and you want to tick your e-commerce growth objective at the same time. So, which makes advertising in the retail media space a little bit more complex, but it's a lot more direct
Right.
than any other potential place.
Right.
Excluding direct to consumer, of course, where you own the entire ecosystem. So how can you replicate that, echo some of it, and offer it to the brands to get them more excited, to get them more invested in your own platform for their own growth, right?
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a partnership between the advertisers, the brands, and the retailers to get that over the line and eventually benefit the entire ecosystem. And what's most important is offer something that is of a value to the end consumer,
Yeah.
right? Which is the objective, right, of everything that we're trying to do. So it's just a question of better experiences as well, more personalization, showing me messages or ads that matter to me and that are of relevance and importance to me, and eventually the whole ecosystem will just mature and get a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean they're sitting on a lot of traffic, a lot of data, right? A lot of very attractive data, transactional data. They're also sitting on a lot of intent, right? Because people are, out there trying to buy something, and not just, wasting time or just, relaxing. And so they're not utilizing it, right, as much as they should. I was looking into some stats. Actually, when you look at e-commerce, for example, in the US, e-commerce penetration in the US is around 50%, which is massive. And there's a lot of success there when it comes to social commerce. Small businesses are just launching, any product, running ads for any product on social media, and they're able to generate a sale from that. When you do that here in the region, particularly social commerce, you don't feel it's as successful as the US, because when it comes to e-commerce here, I guess most of it is pure play. Do you agree with that?
I think even in the US, I think social commerce right now, if you want to talk core markets, I think China's the core market, because they have evolved that into the platform itself became a commerce platform with a social element, right? It's you have to, in a way, you have to be true to the essence of commerce, but to the essence of social as well when you're building a similar platform, and that's where I believe China has cracked it, and Asia in general have cracked it a little bit more in terms of behavior, in terms of attraction to the consumer, and in terms of sometimes gamifying the transaction in a way. And so if we are to learn from a space, it would be from there for us.
Yeah.
But the difference is that there the ecosystem is very it belongs to the region, right? Here, what we're trying to do is we're trying to leverage capabilities that big tech is bringing to us in social commerce, or innovate within the space of those social platforms that are somewhat global. So you have, in a lot of scenarios, you have to wait for the feature to get rolled out. Now, small businesses have cracked it in a much easier way, because it's a lot more personalized, and they can take in the volume a bit easier through a chatbot or through some form of a business messenger or what have you, and that gives the opportunity to SMEs, because they can it's all just a little bit personal. You see it, but that's more social media as a whole than social commerce, because social commerce has a transactional element within the platform, which is still rare in our market. Right here, it's mostly you're either dealing with a pure player or you have your own direct-to-consumer platform. But this being said, the D2C element, at least from a technical perspective, is getting cracked and it's getting easier. There's a lot of no-code solutions or low-code solutions that you can implement to get a business. But that leaves you the biggest part of e-commerce, which is operations. So how can you crack that?
Are you referring to
elements?
Shopify and
these
the likes
platforms are making a lot easier for you to at least the front end of things has become simple. But the back end of things and the operations, and then once the order comes in, what do? Is still somewhat complex, somewhat expensive, which causes a challenge. But somehow, to your point, if the SMEs are cracking it, then there's something for us to learn there. But then scale and cost, and these are the things that you have to tackle when you're expanding the operational elements.
Yeah. Okay. It's interesting you mentioned that. I feel like when it comes to dropshipping, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the space. Dropshipping has been a trending, I guess, space or way of conducting e-commerce for the past perhaps 8 years, somewhere around those lines. And for a long time, it's been banking on the power and the capabilities of performance marketing in order to generate revenue. So dropshippers would come and launch a product in a week, find a product on Alibaba, build one landing page, and run it on social media and utilize performance marketing capabilities or and optimization in order to generate revenue very quickly. But it seems like for the past few years, it hasn't been working too well anymore. And now consumers are more demanding from brands. They're having a brand is becoming more important than performance marketing. If I can say that, put it like that.
I don't know if I agree with that. Now, going back to dropshipping, it's brokerage. It existed since forever, right? Now it's just taken a digital form. If I can get you the product in front of your eyes before anyone else, and you're convinced, you would buy it straight away instead of going back, doing your research, sourcing it. It's about packaging and delivery and brokerage. But brands, I think, depending on what type of product are you buying, what type of what's the need, how much are you willing to pay, all of that. How interested are you really in the form over the function, if you want, or in the story, in the experience, all of that. This is where brands come into to kind of change the game, right? Because it's really about experience, it's about trust, it's about the story. And it's about the feel that you get when you're engaging with brand A versus brand B, and that sits in its own bucket, and that plays in specific areas, right? A lot of it is beauty, fashion. Sometimes it's something that you need the brand to trust before you expose yourself to a certain product that might be harmful to you. In other scenarios, if you're buying something that is like super functional, you wouldn't care all that much. Or sometimes you want to differentiate yourself, you want to try something new, then that's something that's appealing to you. The value of the brand will always be there, and what the brand carries as values, as messages, as confidence, and as positioning, potentially experience, is super important. But again, I think that would be highly dependent to the product and the vertical and the category that you're buying from.
Right. Let's shift gears. All right. Talk about something completely a little bit perhaps unconventional to the traditional topics in marketing. Web3. Do you think there's any intersection at all between performance marketing and Web3?
Yeah, I think it's standing out, and we talk a lot about attention economy and fancy words like that. I think it's about attracting, and it's about delivering your message in a smooth way that speaks to me and speaks to you, sometimes a little bit differently. And I think Web3 can play an element or can play a role in that for those who are experiencing it that way. Right now, I don't see the scale being too large in today's economy, but then it was zero a few years back. So you never know how that will come forward. It might fade and come back again. It might, because right now there's a bit less discussions about it than with what used to be a year, half ago, 2 years ago. But this doesn't mean that it's not evolving. It does not mean that people are not cracking challenges and solutions via, the modern world, however you want to call it. So as that evolves, yes, advertising and performance marketing will just evolve with it. It will find its space, because whenever there's people, there's something to be sold,
Right.
and there's something to be advertised, and there's something to be experienced, if you want, and then delivered in terms of messages.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'd be interested to know how blockchain technology, can be utilized in performance marketing or in marketing at all.
No, in the value chain, that's
Yeah.
definitely something that's also to be considered, and how marketing functions. Blockchain technology it's proven versatile and effective in many spaces, not just advertising, but in a lot of areas, like the financial ecosystem, the medical ecosystem, you name it. So it's definitely as a piece of technology, it's something to be considered, and something that's already in play for a lot of verticals.
Any particular use case you can think of?
Not right now. In terms of in ad tech, yes.
Yeah.
In data analytics, and in terms of expanding knowledge around results, around analysis, around that is already playing a role. Now that goes into the privacy space a little bit, and the whole thing needs a bit more regulatory effort, if you want, to have more clarity, and so for people to have a bit more confidence in using it in their tech. But not to say that big tech's not leveraging some blockchain technology, if not a lot. And then the disruptor movement that comes from the other side is full on with blockchain to offer you the parallel choice. I think it's all of us needs to. I'm not an expert in this space, so I think we need to understand the space a little bit more and see where's the risk versus the benefit in leveraging blockchain. And but for the time being, at least, I'm more prone to the benefits than to the risks.
Yeah.
But again, the more regulation in the space might be sometimes restrictive, but at least it will add that layer of confidence to scale up with it.
So you mentioned privacy.
Yeah.
Right, and this is like a big topic nowadays.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you about the reliance on first-party data with the deprecation of cookies, which is happening as we speak.
Which has happened in my opinion.
Has happened. So I believe the tech platforms, or Google has mentioned perhaps mid-year they will deprecate the cookie, but I think we're starting to see
the volumes, right?
Volumes and shift in results from the beginning of the year. So what is it that I guess marketeers can do today in order to be ready, I guess, with this world that's coming with the absence of cookies. And if you want to be a little bit more specific about the region also, here, what are solutions in MENA that advertisers can utilize in order to maintain some performance, I suppose.
Yeah. First, I think it depends on the type of advertising that you do, right? How personalized and how targeted you want to get, and I think that's the direction of a lot of brands regard this. So the first thing you need to start thinking about is understanding the ecosystem. What does that mean? If I need to collect data, collect consent, to how do I do that? Right? A lot of brands don't necessarily have the opportunity to gather first-party data at the scale that they need to. I'm talking about potentially FMCGs or consumer brands, and that are always been advertising at large, and have always been about the reach and awareness, rightfully so, right? And these brands, it's a bit harder for them to collect first-party data because they don't have a medium to do so. So this is where you turn to potential partnerships, potential agreements, collaborations with data owners in that space. Sometimes you do have first-party data, but you have a few attributes about those audiences, and you want to enrich that, and this is where you go into agreements as well. And there are a lot of ID solutions and core ID providers have come to the market. Of course, I work at the largest advertising communications conglomerate globally, Publicis. We have our own solution called Epsilon that's excellent at providing that element and facilitating partnerships, if you want, with data owners, so that you can enrich your own data set and go to market and advertise to in a bit more personalized way, or have a bit more tailored communications with your audiences. So first step to go back to is understand where do you stand within that space. What are the platforms or the mediums in which you can collect data, and you can keep that data in an ecosystem of yours, and how can you understand that data better, enrich it in some scenarios, and then take it back to market and drive it forward. In more complete ecosystems, that becomes a bit more about how are you managing all of the data, how are you organizing it, segmenting it, bringing it in, understanding it in a better way so that you can use it better. And of course, the third bucket is the solutions that the tech providers are bringing to market in that space. So instead of leveraging cookies to understand journeys, there's a lot of modeling. Going back to the topic of AI and machine learning, there's a lot of modeling that's going to happen, a lot of understanding, a lot of smart approaches to solving and to cracking the cookieless words that is also brought to market by the big tech, that I think can be leveraged, and that's gonna only grow as well as we go and mature. And I think within a year and a half's time, I think that the ecosystem will change, and it will adapt fairly quickly, and we'll go back to different sets of solutions, but at the same time doing what we do, and potentially I'm not gonna say better, because we're yet to discover that, but at least in a more advanced way and in a more focused way, while maintaining privacy and while giving the consumer the choice, which is the most important thing.
I think you tapped into a lot of topics here
with
this answer.
Because I was trying to cover a bit of everything.
You spoke about ID, core ID, which is a super interesting area. And you also spoke about what tech platforms are offering also to help, I guess, give advertisers a substitute, basically, to cookies, which is, I guess, CAPI, right? Conversion APIs, etc., server-to-server integrations, and conversion tracking. Have you seen this work in from some of the work that you've seen at
Yes.
Publicis?
Yes.
So any particular, I guess, use case where you stopped complete reliance on cookie?
I don't think everyone's trying to, use them while they last.
Yeah.
But of course, a lot of the big players that we deal with that are, direct to consumer or conversion driven, if you want, even if they're service providers and whatnot, we're leveraging that technology a lot, and it's working.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, learning still for us to do in that space, but we're getting there. And I think I think these can offer the immediate layer of solutions that you can implement on your business today as you kind of understand that as you crack the rest of it. Now, if you've been preparing yourself, like many brands as well have done over the past couple of years, getting your data together, understanding it better, hosting it in a space that a CDP or combination of CRM, getting an ID solution in place so that you can push that out in a privacy safe world, and rolling with that, you're much better off today. Some brands are less mature than others. Some regions are less, or markets in our region are less mature than others. But I think a strategy needs to be in place regardless, and you need to roll with it as you go. These solutions have proven to work so far in many scenarios, but there's a lot more learning for us to do, and for the providers as well of the solutions to improve on. But that's always been the ecosystem. It's been disrupted time and time again. Obviously, the deprecation of the cookies is one of the biggest disruptions of the space for a while now. But I think they have enough technology, they have enough knowledge, they have enough experience, and we have the same on our side to get through it and to deliver the best we can deliver. Because again, this whole thing just boils down to providing a proper experience and providing the right connection with the end consumer, so that you're not, so that you're, to your point, you're nurturing that intent element in them, rather than potentially alienating them or disrupting a rather smooth journey.
Yeah. So when it comes to core ID, obviously this is a big space, growing space, wonderful, fantastic solution in the absence of cookie data. And for the MENA region in specific, it feels that this when it comes to ID targeting availability, we are a little bit nascent, I think, or maybe perhaps premature. Obviously, it's growing very quickly. But how do you see this landscape changing? You mentioned Epsilon, so
there's a lot of other players in the market
Yeah.
as well, to be fair, and who have been there for a while. I think now it was just a question of opportunity to have the conversation and to come to the front row, if you want, with that conversation. But over the past couple of years, obviously, this became a priority to a lot of data owners,
Yeah.
to preserve, to safeguard their knowledge, if you want, and that's a treasure. So the solutions are ramping up, all of them. A lot of partnerships are being played, and the data partnership ecosystem is getting there and starting to mature, and that will accelerate a lot this year. So I think these solutions are important. They give you the opportunity to first of all to maintain privacy while maintaining personalization, and they will allow a lot more space for partnerships and for collaborations across data owners. A lot of opportunity for monetization as well, because that's that comes with a commercial side to it also. So that's an important element, and I think that's gonna it started accelerating in my opinion, but it's gonna accelerate a lot more over the coming couple of months.
Any challenges will come from the walled gardens or the different tech platforms being, very strict about sharing data outside their playing field?
I think again, these are knowledge is a treasure, and each platform would want to maintain that and attract other data towards its ecosystem versus the other way around. If you talk about big tech, almost every one of them applies the same principles, and almost every one of them as well have created their own clean room, clouded solution that will actually enable partnerships and enable data owners to come and benefit from it to nurture the ecosystem. So if you have something of value, it's only natural for you to preserve it. Enters the element that we always talk about in our performance story, which is the orchestration element. So as someone who's standing between the brand and the tech platforms, what middleware can you provide, and what capabilities can you provide to facilitate orchestration across, to facilitate better journeys, more consistent journeys across all of that. And I think this is the forte that we own and that we have in our ecosystem, and that's something that we're going to be talking a lot more about to make sure that we're bringing that to market, and we're allowing our partners and our brands and our clients to benefit from it, and actually bring some sense to orchestrating all of these channels together to the benefit of the better experience and to the benefit of better connection points with the people.
I love your choice of words. You said middleware.
Yeah.
So perhaps the software and the tools that you can use as a person, as an orchestrator that's sitting between the brand and the tech platform. What comes to mind when you say that? Is there any particular tool?
That's something that I don't think we can discuss right now in a bit of a public space.
Yeah.
But yes, we have been investing a lot in this type of solution because we believe that it's as important to optimize and to do better within each channel as it is to orchestrate and to go across the channels, again, while all of these being building blocks towards specific business objectives. And on the flip side, on the mirror side of that, offering consistent journeys and offering something of value through advertising to those who are seeing that ad. From the creative messaging, which will always remain one of the pillars or the key pillar of what we do, but also to the delivery element and to the optimization element and to how we're using our brands and our clients' budgets in the best possible way while at it. That's, again, the essence of performance.
Right. Any particular brand that you feel are exemplary when it comes to performance marketing, data-driven performance?
A lot of good brands, honestly, out there. We tend to be too critical of our own work sometimes, but you can see a lot of experience while they're sitting with us or not. A lot of brands are doing it by themselves as well. The more modern brands, the more digitally native brands have been doing a lot of great work in that space. Again, sometimes there's a lot of trial and error everywhere, but I don't want to go into naming brands either. But a lot of good brands, a lot of brands are doing good work in the space. They're innovating, and it's always things that are memorable. What was that message, or what was that ad that clicked with you and got you to convert or got you convinced with a certain product, with a certain service, with a certain potentially a message or idea. And sometimes it's super simple because you just see it and you engage with it. But in the background, a lot of people did a lot of work to get there, to get to that simple message delivered to you on that specific platform. And this that's brand work, and that's agency work, and that's hard work from marketing teams everywhere.
Yeah. So what would it take, I guess, from an advertiser to be well equipped when it comes to performance marketing? Do they need to hire the right people internally? Is there any shift that's required from I guess you did mention mindset at the beginning, any certain processes? What's your advice? Let's start with the people perspective. There's always also this debate about hiring in-house versus hiring an agency. Is it a industry criteria, or an agency can do anything?
I think my opinion in that space is that whatever serves the evolution of the brand faster, more efficiently, and more sustainably. There's no one right answer to that question, in my opinion. It's a question of who you are as a brand, how you operate. If you're in-housing, how well can you evolve these people and help them become better, offer them the opportunity, offer them the space to do that. And the same goes on the agency side. It's a still by far a people first industry. Again, going back to the mindset, going back to who's doing what and how much are they involved and how much are they bought into the idea that we're delivering across the performance ecosystem, right? So it's they can be sitting on the brand side, they can be sitting on the agency side. It's really about how are we offering them the opportunity to learn. How are we offering them the opportunity to test as well and to try things and to evolve and to move forward with things, right? So if they're sitting on the agency side, obviously the ecosystem is equipped to do that and is designed to do that. And there's a lot of bouncing ideas off of each other and talking and discussing and learning off of each other and learning off of tests that worked and those that have failed from part of a broader community. But at the same time, a lot of brands have in-house that successfully and have developed the right ecosystem with the right people to do so. And even with the agency ecosystem, you need, on the brand side, you need innovators and you need drivers and you need people who are completely switched on and then in harmony with their agency. They would be working to deliver great work and to deliver, obviously, work that matters, that impacts.
Yeah. Let's see how much time we still have. Time.
Flew by.
We've had a wonderful discussion. Any particular message you wanna leave out for those out there trying to, I guess, get more involved in performance marketing, trying to learn a little bit more about the topic, trying to make the most of it? Any resource you can direct them to? Any helpful tips?
I think there's plenty out there to learn, and plenty of resources that are, in a lot of cases, free for you to learn. So my one advice is that if you want to get into it, double check that you have the drive for it. Double check that you want to do it. If you want to do it, you'll find a way. A lot of people I work with and myself, we've taught ourselves that. I did not work in media, I did not work in advertising at the beginning of my career, yet I taught myself how to do digital marketing because it was a point of passion for me. So if it's a passion point to you, just get rolling, learn by yourself through the many free of charge resources that are out there, and give yourself the opportunity to try and to test things out, and just get into it, as they say. There's no one single path for you to go into it, as long as you want to do it, as long as it's a passion point for you, and as long as you enjoy the wins and you learn from the failures. That's pretty much every industry and every job. So what I'm really trying to say is that just double check, make sure that this is something you like and you're passionate about, and you'll get there. You'll know how to get there without too much guidance even.
Actually, I want to ask one more question, if that's all right with you.
Sure.
We still have a bit of time. Are there any boundaries to performance marketing? Have you worked on offline media? Is there like a performance marketing lens?
Not once.
Related to offline? Is it all digital?
I have not worked on offline, to tell you that.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what I believe in. I believe that, again, to go back to the definition of performance, if you can measure it, you can optimize it.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of tech is going to, we say offline right now as if it's something of the past, right?
Yeah.
But so much technology is going into outdoor advertising. So much technology is going into TV, and the shift to connected TV as we go. I don't know much about the ecosystem, but I know that I've seen a lot of people, a lot of colleagues do wonders with somewhat mediums that were referred to as traditional mediums. I've seen people do wonders with newspaper advertising, and that's something that, again, it's about the passion, it's about the drive, it's about the insight a lot of times. What is it that you're trying to achieve? What do you know of the consumer that you can communicate back to them in what drives them? And that's all about, that's all what marketing and advertising is about, at least to me. So there's no barrier, there's no limitation on performing and then optimizing and measuring in any potential medium out there, right? It's what we used to call word of mouth is now become potentially, a whole movement around influencers. And so it was a question of, being the trust element and hearing it from someone that you believe, that the opinion of which you'd value. Right. So no, but there's no barrier, there's no boundaries. I think I know very little about that ecosystem, and not once have I activated these campaigns to come and give you part of my experience. But I see no barriers, and I've seen a lot of colleagues do amazing things with it.
Yeah, perhaps from the moment you have levers that you can use in campaign, perhaps that just becomes a performance topic, a performance challenge, as opposed to just shooting or booking a number of impressions on a fixed placement. Then that becomes just a billboard ad, right? Or just almost like offline advertising. Type great. Elie, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you for hosting me. I'm honored to be the first guest.
Yeah.
And, I wish you great success with what you're trying to do.
Thank you very much.
Good luck to Below the Fold.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I hope you like the coffee.
Yeah.